completely thought this through.
I guess not. What should I do?
Maybe you can just go back.
Go back?
Yeah. Pretend like it never happened.
You mean just walk into the staff meeting on Monday morning like it never happened?
Sure. You're an emotional person. People don't take you seriously.
Just go back. Pretend the whole...
I'm a bit concerned. Do I put it in Binance or do I put it in Coinbase? And I'm like, geez, Sam, have you not heard of Trezor or Ledger yet?
Yeah.
Like literally, you know,
put it all in
many...
Bitcoin and get a cold card, and then go on Casa and just make it so you have to take a plane trip to access your money, protect yourself from your FOMO sapien inside.
I've heard history repeats itself. It's not supposed to repeat on 3-month quarterly basis. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, man, Trezor and Ledger sales must be through the roof though.
Hey Simon, earlier were you comparing CZ to SBF?
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I like to see the two, it's like, and I wanted to see if you would agree with this. CZ feels like the devil you know, and SBF feels like the devil you don't. That's sort of like how I like to look at them.
Yeah, but personally, I think I think CZ comes from the right place. I think he's a although you know they all own trading gambling shops, but CZ is he's a Bitcoin OG.
Of course,
he comes from the right type of fabric.
I mean, so
I don't recall CZ ever fudding Bitcoin.
No.
I just don't remember ever hearing him do that. Like, of course, he said things like promoting BNB and he runs a shitcoin casino, but he's never, as far as I remember, has said something like Bitcoin fees are too high, so therefore use BNB. It's better than Bitcoin, or anything like the Lightning Network's not working, so we're gonna make Binance Smart Chain the best place to use for stable coin swapping. That's stuff that SBF has done in the past for sure. He's kind of taken the like, oh, Bitcoin's bad for the environment, therefore Solana is a better blockchain because it's clean, and Lightning Network's not going to work its payments, so therefore use USDC on Solana. So yeah, for sure. Like in terms of shitcoin casino influencers that actually have influence over millions of people, CZ is definitely on the more on the Bitcoin spectrum than FTX and SBF.
I'll give you an example. So I got firsthand experience of like both of their trips to El Salvador. So, SBF was there to try and turn El Salvador into a shitcoin casino to risk the sovereign future of the country by launching a shitcoin on top of Solana and persuading them that, they should diversify from the Bitcoin strategy. Whereas, CZ was there to responsibly tell the president that, Bitcoin is the right approach. It's just a difference in ethics. Like, to me, taking a country like El Salvador and persuading them to put a shitcoin on Solana, like they probably did with Central African Republic, that's immoral. That's not a responsible strategy for a country that's suffering from, such a transition. And they're betting on the Bitcoin strategy. To not understand that, it tells me a lot about either how people think or the character of a person. And so when I started realizing what Mashinsky was, I just see similarities with what we're seeing with SBF at the moment. He made all his money as a Bitcoin trader, and yeah, I don't. It's just. I don't know. It's just the level of maturity and thinking, and a certain level of responsibility that I don't see. And then even with the whole, playing the regulatory game, I mean, they're missing all the securities law stuff, and yet, They're still trying to play that regulatory game. It's just I don't know. I just see them as different. Same business, but different characters, different people, different missions.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
SBF has publicly said that he wants to earn a lot of money so that he can basically later in his life reshape the world by supporting progressive political causes. Now, that's his prerogative, and if that's what he wants to achieve, I wish him luck in doing so, even if I don't agree with some of those causes that he wants to support. But that seems like a strange thing to say. Like, I'm going to dedicate my life to building this huge financial infrastructure because I have this personal goal of being able to change the world through basically having a lot of wealth and political reform. That's just something that has always struck me as being odd about SBF. Respect him as much as I do.
Well, I just think, if that's your mission, then wouldn't it have been a good mission to pay a little extra and fill the hole from all the Voyager victims? I'm not saying that anyone should do that.
No, that's exactly right, Simon. That's exactly right.
I'm not saying anyone should do that because it's bad business. But if you come from that type of mindset, then you've got a million people that were in real agony from Voyager. And now, he's trying, whether he'll succeed or not, to do the same with the Celsius situation. If you are a very charitable person, then that would surely be the most aligned charitable thing to do, in line with your business, your ethos, your goals. And if you want all those customers to be customers of yours in the future, why did you do a predatory offer? Why did you try and get a bargain?
But Simon, that's kind of the opposite vibe that I get from him. I don't feel like he's doing it to be charitable. I feel like he's doing it to be selfish. He wants to be an influencer. He thinks, perhaps, my interpretation of the things that he said, and this is things he said multiple times publicly, is that he thinks that he has some ideas about how the world can be a better place, and that he wants to make a lot of money so that he can use political power and that capital to change the world in those sort of ways. And, as somebody who's a, repeat entrepreneur, I don't know, that just seems to me to be a little bit egocentric and narcissistic. If you want to change the world, I have more respect for guys like people who build things. Not to say he hasn't built something, but to say that your goal is to be able to extract value from these people and then be able to use it to pursue your own personal political goals later on in life, it just seems like a strange thing for a CEO of a large public organization to be out there saying. I mean, imagine if Jeff Bezos said, I want to make as much money off of my customer base so that I can buy the Washington Post and I can support these political causes. I think everybody would go like, Jeff, what are you saying? And I think that's what SBF does. So anyways, I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I just wanted to add that it struck me as odd and that he's repeatedly been like that. And I agree with what you had said about CZ having a different perspective on the world than SBF.
Wayne, I'll do the Salt Bay thing and sprinkle a little extra on that, because not only do I agree with your position, but I think it's even stranger the amount of support he got when things came to light. Like the amount of support that he got was even that was wild to me, because if this was 5 years ago, the way that the community used to rally around these bad actors, I'll just put it in that way. It just something was off about the way when he started to show the cracks in his character, all of that, the way people sort of tried to give him leeway. I don't think that's ever happened. Not even with Arthur. When his episode was happening, just look at what they did with Arthur compared to SBF. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Well, that's where I think SBF takes his. I don't know. I think he's a profit maximalist at heart. Sure, he calls himself an effective altruist, but I think that comes second. To your earlier points, yeah, he's out here very publicly trying to make the money, and then he's got ideas on how best to spend it, and that's all well and good. But first and foremost, the job is to maximize profit. And he looked at what mistakes you could say Arthur Hayes made with BitMEX and ran it back. Like, okay, great. Well, I'm going to build FTX overseas. I'm going to stay outside the crosshairs of regulators. We're going to get to a position of strength, and then only then I will start my lobbying campaign in Washington and the Western world to get good and bring it on shore. I think that's been playing out. I think we've seen in the last year and a half. And I mean, more power to him. But all these trying to draw like what kind of character these people are from their public personas. Well, I don't give any credence to that, because to me, I don't believe that. Like, no, he's sleeping under his desk with a sleeping bag on a beanbag. Like, that's all for show. That's for the public. That's to garner good sentiment. Elon Musk was doing the same thing, sleeping on the factory floor of his Tesla factories. I don't really know how much of it is for show and how much is just good business, but it doesn't matter. Watch what they do, not what they say.
NDA?
Might I make one suggestion for SBF around these days? Is to look into SafeMoon and buying out SafeMoon. The army of SafeMoons is the largest in all of cryptocurrency. I can't play on. I was trying to troll you guys real bad.
I
just can't fucking do it. I'm sorry.
My finger was
Trying
on
to
the
bring
button.
I was just doing the
I couldn't
countdown.
hold myself.
Brad, I was counting down, Brad. I was like, oh, Brad's about to remove this.
I was like,
Boy,
okay,
he about to remove his
wait,
ass.
see where he's going. Let's see where he's going.
I
Just
couldn't
kidding.
hold back my laugh.
I was like, 1, 3, 2, 1.
Continue. I was trying to make it like a little intermission to make people laugh, but I just couldn't hold back my own.
So I will say that if I was
SBF needs to get into doing windmills that power the FTT token.
Let's go.
yes,
Nanoparticles
I will say
to the
that
moon for FTX.
okay, if I was CZ and evil and long-term greedy, I would do the exact same thing he's been doing, the exact same behavior, because it neutralizes a lot of Bitcoiners, right, who are the most vigilant people in the Bitcoin and crypto space, and it enables me to build an empire and look like the good guy every time, because these other people have higher time preference. So I don't think you can say for sure that CZ means well or is that different from Sam Bankman-Fried or the Mashinsky, other than that he might be better at scamming.
Yeah, and Terrence, that's exactly why earlier I'd said to Simon, is it the devil we know versus the devil we don't? Because I would actually agree with that.
But that, to my earlier point, you don't know either of these people. Don't draw too big of conclusions from their online personas.
I like Simon's color though on CZ's trip to El Salvador.
No, it's good.
SBF's trip to El Salvador.
No, but that's a great example. Like when CZ went, it wasn't all just to preach the value of Bitcoin. He was there very specifically for the tether-backed Bitcoin, the volcano bonds with tether backing, like that. They were there. He was there for his bags too. Again, none of this is altruism.
Finally, someone said it. None of this is altruism. That's the bullshit.
Yeah, but there is mission. Like I do consider myself like I'm not a CEO of an exchange, but CEO of a company that invests in the industry, and there is a mission behind decisions, and I think if you were creating a spectrum, you got Alex Mashinsky, which is just at the bottom, then you got SBF in the middle, then you've got CZ, that I do think comes from a certain mission, and you may agree with his perspective on the mission, but I think I think he does make decisions out of purpose. Like the money is made. There's a certain point, where, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, to that point, then, Simon, if you woke up today and you realized, wait a minute, I have 2 billion tokens of this FTT on my books, on my balance sheet, and there may not be an actual legitimate buyer out there other than the entity that created it, and the volume is pretty fugazi. Like, would it not just be good business? Okay, yes, I will start selling this in 1/4 chunks as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, I think there's a number of things that have come together behind that decision. Like, obviously, if you were just trying to do it behind the scenes without harming FTX, then you would have done a backdoor negotiation, an OTC trade. But clearly, there's a bunch of stuff that's happened. The shady shit that happened in the Voyager bid that I'm not going to talk about because I'm under NDA. But that was shady as shit.
Hey, Simon, can I chime in for a sec?
Sure.
Hey, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
How you doing?
Hey.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah, I'm, as people know, I'm kind of listening in one ear and chiming in when I have new novel things to say. So first off, the whole do good by making a bunch of money, that historically and ethically doesn't count if you are screwing the fuck out of people to make the money. It's basically something that people who engage in capitalism and want to apologize to left coast liberals for engaging in capitalism say, but at no point under that sort of ethical framework is it okay to absolutely fuck people over constantly to make the money. That is not part of what the whole, do well and then do good thing is. So that's completely out the door, absolute bullshit when it comes to Sam. So he isn't in the middle. He's right there next to Do Kwon and Mashinsky and the rest of them. So fuck that guy. Secondly, CZ is an enemy of human freedom and progress because he's pumping all this crypto bullshit. So fuck him too. He's also at the far end. He's on the left. He is basically delaying the onset of Bitcoinization that will usher in a new era of human of human freedom and progress brought about by Bitcoinization. And really the biggest enemy still today, as it has been since probably 2017, 2018, remains the crypto blockchain DeFi scam that is being perpetrated on dumb money around the world and keeping them away from understanding the truth. So it's Andreessen Horowitz, it's fucking Jump, it's Alameda, it's all these guys. So, in no way should you be giving him a pass or placing him on a spectrum anywhere other than right next to Mashinsky and Do Kwon. He might just be a little bit better at prolonging his scheme and his scam, but it's the exact same thing.
Yeah, I'd still put him above. I wouldn't put him in the same category as Mashinsky.
I mean, think about it like a Google Ads quality score. You've got two factors, and one is like how bad are you, and two is like how good are you at it. So Mashinsky might be like super bad dude and like pretty good at it, and CZ is like a really bad dude, not quite as bad a dude as Mashinsky, but he's way better at it. So basically, the negative effect of CZ and Sam is, probably 100 times worse than the negative effect of Mashinsky. So they're way worse enemies of human progress than Mashinsky.
Mashinsky feels like a Walmart brand SBF. Like, that's the vibe that I'm getting. So.
Nah, bro, he's 99-cent fucking dollar store.
Oh, Corey, there you go.
So, Corey,
that's what I'm talking about. There you go.
If we're going to live in a world where we do live in right now, and tens of millions of people come into crypto, quote unquote crypto, through exchanges, I think it's a fair framework to say, excluding Bitcoin only exchanges, if you're just talking about the crypto industry, that CZ is on like a higher level spectrum than somebody like Mashinsky or who actually FUD Bitcoin. Like they're like Roger Ver telling people Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin, actually sowing discord and causing legit misinformation, doing mis-selling
Whereas like CZ, I feel if we're gonna live in this reality, which is kind of like
Yeah, but we're not.
been through.
Like Brad, don't fucking give up and don't be a pussy about it. Like just fight the fight and don't give up ground. It's stupid. This dude was trying to roll back the chain last year. Fuck that guy.
Yeah, I guess that's true, but he did learn his lesson
That is
not
true,
to.
yeah.
What do you mean learned his lesson? They rolled back the chain just last month. The finance.
No, I'm saying he was
tried to roll back
Bitcoin.
Oh.
He actually investigated how to roll back Bitcoin.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that was
he's
a dark- that was
completely
a dark
mercenary
thing.
and amoral. He's not on any kind of like Bitcoin cause. He's not on the fucking team. Absolutely not.
I don't know, man. I
Bitcoin-
do think that there.
Okay,
can be-
then Corey, let me push back on. So Jesse Powell, proper OG Bitcoiner, but has to create a shitcoin casino for his business. Giancarlo Bitfinex, proper Bitcoin.
Yeah, I'll stop you right there. I mean, This thing is like the framework that I'm rolling with lately, as you guys probably know, is the race versus the war. And it's basically like we have a race where we're trying to win the race of Bitcoin adoption so we don't have to fight a war, basically coordinated by the US government and all their allies and shitcoiners and banks and everybody contra Bitcoiners. And if we win the race, this thing can be over by like the middle of next decade. It can be over by like 2035 to 2040. Bitcoin's global money, like we all celebrate. Our kids get to grow up in like a Bitcoinized world. We lose the fucking race, we fight a war. Man, it gets fucking ugly. This shit could last like 100 years. So I'm trying to win the race so we don't have to fight a war. And so when you think of things like Jesse, yeah, I mean, he's done a lot for Bitcoin, and that's in the pro column, and he does a lot, with shitcoins, and that's in the negative column. And you got to kind of see like, where does it net out?
on stage.
When you look at like Giancarlo and Paolo and Bitfinex, I mean, sure, it was like a shitcoin exchange early on when that was kind of excusable. But holy shit,
it started as a Bitcoin exchange, and they got forced into shitcoin because they couldn't compete.
Sure, but holy shit, have they done a lot for Bitcoin recently?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're throwing Bitcoin conferences and they're funding Carvalho. Like, I mean, they've clearly turned like massively net positive for Bitcoin.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Like that's the thing. These online personas, these online, the public tweets they put out, the interviews. None of that is you should weight very heavily. What are they doing? What are their actions? Where are they actually putting their time, their effort, their money? That's way more signal.
I mean, from what I understand, kind of in the background, like Bitfinex has done more by far than any centralized company for like Bitcoin adoption in El Salvador, and they're just like super quiet about it. But I think a lot of times they even recognize that maybe like things that they do in Bitcoin, it kind of harms the cause to have the Tether name associated with it. But they're there and they're doing shit for it. So it's a little bit of a different situation than like CZ, who is just like pumping shit coins constantly.
Hey guys, I want to bring it back to the DeFi contagion that's in the topic of this room. As we've been talking, one of the things that occurs to me is that this is all about leverage. You have people who there's a certain amount of leverage in the system. Some of the leverage is against a potentially bad collateral. We've got a situation where we've got lots of Bitcoin miners who are upside down in the loans they've taken against their mining equipment. Like, as you guys look across the whole industry, everything from mining to exchanges to hedge funds, do you guys still feel that there is a tremendous amount of leverage left in the system, or has it compressed enough to where there might be some isolated places where there is a lot of leverage that maybe people are over levered, and that but systemically we're probably close to something that is a rational amount of leverage for the entire industry?
Dude, there is no limit on leverage that this space is gonna have. It's max beating, man.
we all know there's no limit, but I guess the point is has enough of the damage been done for the leverage to be come down to a rational, reasonable level, or is there still so much hidden stuff out there that
because there was no capitulation. There was no capitulation. Like We didn't see a proper top, right? Like Bitcoin never really got to a proper top comparable to previous, and the drop was not deep enough either. So like the I think this players really like made sure that it didn't go below a certain threshold, so that they didn't get called. Um, so they live to survive another day, and they're just gonna find some other way of more leverage. Like I think we haven't even, like, honestly, my view on this is we haven't even started to see the creativity of these guys in this space. Like the next bull market, when we're 10x what we are now, or 100x what we are now, that you're gonna start seeing what people can do with this things, and especially when you have 10, 100 times more retail in, and you have way more traditional large funds coming in that want to also play the lottery too, and everybody's gonna front run retail. Things are gonna get really weird.
Well, I think his question was in the short term, and in my personal opinion, no, you haven't seen all the deleveraging that's possible. Not yet at all. These things go in order of size. So first, your retail, your private individuals, they all get blown out first. Then your small family offices and your hedge funds, and we know the very famous 1-3AC. But all of them take their time in the woodshed and get blown out. Now you're seeing quote unquote exchanges and the larger entities get their due. And you could say it started off with Terra Luna and Celsius, and maybe this is FTX's turn, but it's just going up in order of size. So, and when that ends, you're going to have to look to the broader markets for when that ends.
Yeah, I think you'll know the answer to that question when or if exchange tokens, go through a significant correction. Then you'd probably get the answer to that, and you'd probably find there's a load more shit to come.
But what if we don't see an end to this for the next, say, 20 years?
Marshall's probably got some insight into the second part of that question Wayne asked about, like, the miners over leveraged. Like, Marshall, you got any thoughts there? Do you still think there's capitulation left to happen there, or is a lot of the risk?
I got a ton of thoughts. Most I can't say here, but in general, you got a bunch of finance bros who think they know how to run a Bitcoin mine. I mean, nothing much else to say about that.
Always the fucking finance bros, man. Always.
Jason, you want to add on to that, or you got something else?
Yeah, I just came up because, I actually think NYDIG will be the largest miner in North America. No, I'm not joking. And because they're going to foreclose on all of this leverage. They've lent a lot of money to miners. Watch what happens.
No, I'm glad.
But the challenge for them is not like you can have a pile of miners, but you can't plug them in. Like the problem with mining is not ASICs right now. It's like electricity contracts and infrastructure. Like NYDIG can't do that. Just ask Marshall.
And look at the news with NYDIG. They literally laid off 1 out of every 3 employees just this last month. Across, that's insane. That's nuts.
I wouldn't rope that in.
Yeah, they might not have a lot of capital.
I wouldn't rope that in with that. I mean, that's just bear market in general. I'm not saying that that's not because they're having a hard time, but in the bear market, if you're attached to mining, you must get lean. Period. Doesn't matter.
Okay, but Tesla lays off 10% of their workforce in the summer. NYDIG said, "Hey, 1 out of every 3 of you don't come in Monday morning." There's a difference.
Yeah, but we just got out. We're on the backside of the biggest bubble in history, and I agree with exactly what Marshall said. Smart companies get lean quick. The people who do it fast and the people who do it now are the ones who have the chance of surviving. The people who try to hold on to their growth projections and the things that they were trying to do during the past 12 to 18 months are the ones who are, it's going to be too late. So I wouldn't necessarily say that layoffs are a sign of trouble for companies nowadays.
You know, another thing too is NYDIG is like your classic sort of like Wall Street shop too, right? I mean, those guys know how to go from, 100 down to 10 to then go to 100 again. Like they don't have this qualms that like most non street firms have with like retaining staff. It's like, things don't look great. Don't come back on Monday.
Yeah, and NVK, they're just not deploying capital. I'm sure that's why
it.
but don't get this twisted. My statement around, I think, I tweeted a while ago that I saw a lot of, all these miners were levered up, and I think there's a lot of pain here. Think about this. The same guys who lend them the money are screwing around with the price of Bitcoin. Like, think about that.
But it's always been like that. We have a kitty-sized bull market. Bitcoin is like tiny, so it's always going to be fully manipulated, let's put it this way. And now we have, all these wonderful future products, none of which have a spot exit. So it's going to get like, extra suppressed. So, yeah. And also like Bitcoin is a tiny little thing for a lot of these firms too. So I don't think they would risk their reputation and trying to manipulate this too hard. Anyways, that's just my
but I mean, but wait. Well, okay. There's some bad actors in these exchanges, so those are the guys I'm talking about that'll play this game of manipulation potentially. Who knows if that's true or not? But that's my point. So I think that's the big moment here in Bitcoin is going to be the shakeout on leverage in mining, and we're going to see a lot of consolidation to those lenders, and then a potential operational hurdle. I'm not saying they can pull this off, but I think they endeavor to. Greed is a powerful motivator, NVK.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Like, there's always going to be manipulation. But like, what kind are you describing? Just an aside here. Marshall, you have a better memory than I do for this, but what cycle was that the miners were selling on the dip to break the other miners?
I think that was 2014, maybe.
Yeah, so it was like beautiful and awful to see, but like the way that a lot of the miners consolidated, the price would dip. They would just dump on the dip, and then the other miners just couldn't survive on those contracts, and they get gobbled up and gobbled up. Like this is just how this very liquid but very small markets work until they find, like a size of equilibrium where if you try your luck manipulating, you end up getting burned.
Here's a question for Marshall and Jason. Let's say that some things happen and these large miners do end up getting, either liquidated or their collateral gets taken by their lenders. Does the actual operational capacity out there exist to deploy those miners, to actually make them economically viable? And do things like, Genesis launched, I think it's GDIO. It's an investment vehicle where you can buy essentially a security, and they're going to use the funds to be able to acquire distressed mining equipment. The first thought that I have is if these lenders take back the equipment, or if I'm an investor in one of these funds that's buying distressed mining equipment, does the capacity exist to deploy that at scale so that those people taking back that collateral or making those investments even make sense?
Let me go first because I got to run. But Wayne, you do real estate, right?
No, I don't. I mean, I bought a big house, but that's it.
I'm sorry. I thought we talked real estate before, but this is how I see it going down. And I'm not saying I've seen the docs, but this is how I see it going down. It's exactly like when you lever a piece of commercial real estate that has a tenant. What happens in the event of default is the rent goes to the lender. So they don't take these things out of the rack. You guys are missing this. They don't take them out of the rack. When Celsius defaulted, the guys who were hosting those mines just pointed the rigs to their own wallet.
So Jason,
I know this for a fact.
Yeah, look, in general, that would be the case. But the problem is all the people that they're hosted with are saying that they're going to go fucking bankrupt. So what the fuck are they going to do now?
Yeah, it's like real estate. The contracts are shorter. There's maintenance. Like this is not like a stable sort of, 30-year outlook on something that you don't really have to do much to. This is more like you need people there all day, every day, dealing with stuff. So
Marshall.
yes, they would do that, but they can't like just keep it.
Marshall, what are the pressures that are forcing the people who are hosting the machines to go bankrupt? Is it energy costs? Is it something else besides the price of Bitcoin?
I mean, there's nothing public about it, but I can only pontificate. But I think Core mentioned that they got dicked around on one of their power deals. Power contracts are like wildly complicated. Like the power game is probably more complicated than the mining game, and that's saying a lot. So I'm not going to put any of that burden on Core. They probably just signed a raw deal, but again, that's just speculation.
Celsius locked in a fixed rate, and then obviously costs went up, and then Celsius went into bankruptcy and stopped paying. That's gonna hurt.
So as a big Core customer, I mean that's a reason, right? That's pretty public. Outside of that, a lot of people took shots on net with technology that they thought they understood. That's pretty clear not to be the case. And in general, people just don't understand that you have to build for the winter. You got to be Jon Snow. You can't be the hot chick on the beach. You just can't do it. And people built out and expanded when the price was running, and they got rinsed. I mean, it's just the same shit that we saw in the run up in 13 down to 14 and 15. Same shit we saw in the run up to 16 and 17 and what followed in 18 and 19. Same shit, different day. Finance bros think they know how to mine Bitcoin, and they don't.
Yeah, and Marshall, one other, I think there's multiple levels that the miners get wrecked. You know, one, they borrow money to buy the rigs. Two, then they lever the Bitcoin for operations. So when this thing doesn't go in the right direction, it's like unrecoverable. It's like one of those death spirals crashes.
Yeah, so
and those are the smart lenders, the ones that.
Oh, no, I mean, in general, look, mining is very much outside of like controlling your OPEX, like Jason is talking about. It's also a huge timing game. So people that took debt to buy machines at the top of the market, it is irrecoverable because you took debt and it's cheap debt, but you took it when your CapEx was at its all-time high because your commodity producer for machines is also your competitor. So the cost of your shovels equates to the cost of your commodity production. So the people that bought the top are now the people that are trying to sell the bottom. It's just, I mean, timing is so critical in Bitcoin that, to Jason's point, you're digging yourself a hole that you can't get out of.
It sounds like some of the smarter, older miners, Marshall. It sounds, and I don't want to assume anything with your company, but it sounds like the smarter ones made sure to sign variable financing with Bitmain to make sure, okay, if price starts crashing in 2022, we're not going to have to pay the full 100% amount on the deal we signed back in 2021.
Yeah, so that's not synonymous to Bitmain. That's how most large hash rate purchasing contracts work across the board with most retailers. I don't know what anybody else signed, but I mean, I personally, at my little rinky-dink shop, signed the same exact type of contract that you're talking about for XP purchases. But it's also about negotiation, you know, like a lot of the rigs that were purchased, contracts that are published on the Edgar website are much more than what they should have been. Like what people were more interested at getting hash rate online because they thought the street cared about hash rate instead of focusing on their CapEx for machines. Turns out the street doesn't actually give a shit. The street prices everybody that has any exposure to Bitcoin fucking same. They price MicroStrategy the same as they price Core Scientific is the same as they price literally everybody else. And even within the mining game, like people have wildly different business models and they all track the Bitcoin price with like damn near perfect correlation.
It's.
I mean, that's the market, right? It's not the street. Maybe they take their lead from the street, but that's just what happens in a bull market when people are ignorant.
Well, I mean, nobody like outside of this space knows how to price it, too, right? Because if everybody has a one-way trade, essentially, that's what a Bitcoin company is, right? Because you're holding BTC, you have like your product is essentially selling to Bitcoiners, right? In a way. So, when the price tanks, everything tanks together and you go much deeper in a one-way trade. So, like, those guys just don't know how to price it.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
I
Aaron.
agree with that. I just say to Marshall's point, they're not differentiating the different business models and operational skills, right? Some people are just executing much better than others. Like Core Scientific would be one that's probably not operating very well.
What blew me away with Core Scientific is that they didn't make sure that it sounds like they were still net profitable on their own self-mining, but they weren't factoring in the rising cost of energy with all their host mining. So they were just taking fat L net loss on the host mining for much of 2022. And then worst case scenario, you run into situations where Celsius goes bankrupt and you're not going to get paid on any of that. It's just rough.
I think some of the public miners had a get big fast mentality. The bigger they got, the faster they got large, the easier that they were able to access capital markets. And I think people are learning that that's not a good strategy.
When you have a bigger mine, if you're in the right location, you also get much better energy contracts, right? And you also get economies of scale on the whole other side of the operations, like, ordering, putting together a substation, things like that. You need scale, otherwise you don't survive. Like, mining is a commodity business. It's a race down to near.
Yeah, you're 100% right, but I think they took it a little bit too far.
Summer, which is very black swanish, is the price of nat gas went fucking ballistic, and so, like I said, I don't know anything about Core's business. I don't know anything about the PPA that they signed or any of that kind of stuff. But given that markets were on a nosedive down, plus nat gas, which powers up many grids across the states, going absolutely vertical. That those are some things that you might not be able to quantify with any kind of model. And again, maybe they got caught in a this is just speculation. Maybe they got caught in the middle where their contract was expiring. Nat gas went through the roof. Their new contract was more expensive than they would like, but they have arrangements with hosting clients. So maybe they just kind of got caught in the middle. I've always known Core to be good operators. So that's what I'd like to give them credit for. But again, I don't really have any details outside of that.
Everyone has a plan. You don't.
Until they get punched in the face.
I was going to say that, till they get punched in the mouth.
Everybody has a plan until they get smacked in the face with a picanha. You know?
Yeah, well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
What's actually interesting, if you put MicroStrategy's stock against any of your public Bitcoin miners, they've actually outperformed the market. They've outperformed all of them since the summer lows for almost 6 months now. So someone's giving them credit for not holding any Bitcoin miners and just the pure asset.
Hey, Simon, what was the actual situation with Celsius mining?
Sorry, who was that?
If you put
Celsius.
MicroStrategy against, you name it, Riot, Spark, Hive, Hut.
No, I mean, I'm following them close. On the BitcoinTreasuries.net, you'll see there, especially against their enterprise value, those guys are killing. He figured out how to get like low cost of capital to buy Bitcoin. As long as
I think it's because they have a differentiated cash flow, so that helps.
Yeah.
Do they though? Do they? I feel like MicroStrategy is just like a dog shit software company.
Well, yes.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It has no. You could say that, sure, but it doesn't widely vary based on the price of spot today.
listen, they are also a very small company too, right? I mean, they just happened to do well on that year, mostly because of like like they had extra investments in as well. But like realistically speaking, they are a, say, 20-30 million dollar, revenue year kind of company, right? Like it's a tiny company. They just took the COVID opportunity to get rid of real estate costs, and they have like a lot of assets. So like I don't know, like those guys are just being smart. Hey, go ahead, Foss.
Hey guys, thanks for inviting me up, Brad. Yeah,
What is this, Canadian sympathizer hour? Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is, Marshall.
Keep your stick on the ice.
You're gonna have to like it.
Okay, well, you don't have to like it. You just have to listen to the Canadian opinion, which may be right or may be wrong. But here's what...
No, it's always right.
Well, no, but here's what I know. Okay, couple of things. Bitcoin mining is a fucking tough business because you don't control your input costs and you don't control your revenue. The revenue is set by the market and your input cost is set 100% based on energy prices. So natural gas is your marginal cost of energy in North America. Every single peaker plant in North America is natural gas. Why? Because it can fire up and down in a matter of hours. So you set contracts and PPAs, which should be very specific, and you set them with people who have never negotiated a PPA in their lives, and you rip their eyes out. It's that simple. You have Bitcoin miners that have never negotiated a proper PPA in their lives. They've mined Bitcoin in their parents' basement, and they think they become experts at negotiating a PPA. I mean, come on, guys. This is something that goes on for fucking 50 years. And you get these kids who come to the Bitcoin mining square that think they can negotiate a PPA with an experienced provider of the marginal source of energy in North America. They're going to get their eyes ripped out. So Bitcoin mining starts as a tough business to begin with. And then, and here's the key thing, you lever it up, you're aiming for disaster. You are levering up a unit price bias to sell it to silly retail investors who won't buy Bitcoin at 20,000 because it's too high a price, but will pay 15 to 20 times higher in value for a Bitcoin mining stock because it trades at $1 a share. That is arbitrage, Wall Street style. Bring it back to Michael Saylor. Can I just finish? Sorry.
Hold that thought.
Okay, let me say this one thing. Michael Saylor is an absolute genius at arbitraging Wall Street at their own game. He raised fixed capital at 6 1/8 coupon, non-secured in the high yield market to buy Bitcoin. He's not only outperformed every single Bitcoin miner, he's outperformed every single tech stock since he adopted a Bitcoin strategy. Just look at his own reports. It's actually brilliant. Doesn't matter if he's a $4 billion company or not, NVK. $4 billion is a lot bigger than a couple of $100 million.
Hey, listen, I'm a stockholder, man.
Well, okay, I'm not sure I'd be a stockholder. That being said,
that thought, because you did an amazing job of explaining how hard Bitcoin mining is. Now, imagine this, yeah? You go out to the world of retail people and you ask them all to deposit your money in their bank because it's safer than a bank and they can pay a higher rate. And then what you do with clients' money in this illegal hedge fund is you go short 50,000 Bitcoin and invest it in a Bitcoin mining operation. So at the same time as trying to get that mining operation working, you're also short 50,000 Bitcoin from retail investors that you told investing with you was safer than holding it in a bank. That's Celsius.
Potential. Okay, 100% that's Celsius. Celsius is a fraud. Okay, we all know that. What if, though, there were a number of hedge funds that were actually set up at the outset, which were seeing this opportunity to short Bitcoin miners and actually hold spot Bitcoin on a relative basis because Bitcoin miners were highly overvalued relative to the underlying. Well, that's exactly what happened. Okay, just that the market self-regulated or self price adjusted. You know, there are times where you look at things when you see something that's so ridiculous. When, and I'm pulling this name out of the air, a Canadian Bitcoin miner that trades at probably 5 times its true enterprise value. Well, you're supposed to short that thing, and you're supposed to hedge that by buying the underlying spot when everybody in Bitcoin land is doing the reverse. They think they're getting alpha by being long the low price Bitcoin stock, or low relative value, relative price. Yeah, I can buy the stock at $5 a share. I mean, cheap stock price does not mean cheap enterprise value. And now the market is finally catching up to itself. There's a ton of horrible PPAs that are signed out there, including interruptibility. Yeah. Oh, my power cost was 4 cents a kilowatt hour, but I could be interrupted 90% of the fucking time. I mean, come on. All you needed to do is take it to the market and say, I have 4 cents a kilowatt hour. That's all the market wanted to hear. They didn't happen to hear that, oh yeah, but I was interruptible 90% of the time. So all of these things were playing to the Wall Street growth above all else, put more hash power online. Guess what? The miners of the future are going to start with molecules in the ground, convert that into natural gas, run that natural gas through a Bitcoin miner, distribute that Bitcoin to other exchanges or lending platforms or whatever, and vertically integrate the shitty business called Bitcoin mining. Watch for all future Bitcoin miners to live on the balance sheets of energy companies. Just a prediction from Canada. Love you guys. Sorry.
Hey, Greg, I have to run, but I'm a big fan, and thank you for just shilling my company, PRTI.
I was just about to say that. There's two different universes right now.
We're probably one of the only vertically integrated miners. And we were the first waste energy miner in the world. I don't know if you've ever heard of us, Greg, but I've been mining since 2015.
I've heard of you, Jason, and absolutely, potentially I'm shilling something that we have a gigawatt of power in Canada. Potentially. It's called Validus Power. Check us out. Check us out. I'm not shilling. I'm talking about how to be a peaker plant to fucking stabilize the grid and mine Bitcoin on the side. And that's exactly what Bitcoin's supposed to do. Whether it's methane, whether it's converting wasted energy into monetary energy. What matters is the process starts with energy generation. It doesn't start with this thing called Bitcoin mining. Just my 2 cents worth. Thanks for having me. Love from Canada.
Hey guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. And then just on a final thought to bring it back to all the DeFi token degen stuff and the Canadian theme. So the end of the story is, after doing all that, imagine if you then get the Canadian pension fund to invest 400 million in your operation based upon a $2 billion balance sheet, and that $2 billion balance sheet turned out to be Cell token. Think about that.
Oh man, was that?
So then we bring
Quebec?
it to the news of the day. Is Simon, is FTX literally caught doing the same thing? Before you go,
I don't have the same level of transparency, but I think it is all hinging on a token, and I think there's massive leverage in that FTT token. I think that's why he was, getting himself in the negotiations of all these different bankrupt companies. But I guess it's slightly different because an exchange does genuinely have a profitable business model, whereas Celsius didn't. So, Bitfinex was able to get their way out of their hole when we did the recovery token, because they got their way out of hole by paying off profit and paying off their debt with profit. So exchanges are extremely profitable. So that's kind of the difference. But yeah, we'll see.